Hello everyone, it's Lorica here. Today is a time again for talking about my reading in May and also what I have planned for my reading in June. So May has been it's been a month and a half, it feels like. We went traveling quite a bit, my husband and I, in May. We took a car and we drove from Sweden through Denmark, down towards Germany, and in Germany, we took like this little ferry across the Elbe River, and then from there we went to the Netherlands, and we drove across some islands on this edge of the Netherlands. Really beautiful, and it was really awesome in Netherlands because I understood quite a lot of the signs and things, basically all of them, because I'm Afrikaans, so it was really cool. And then we went down through Belgium into northern France. And then from there, we went back into Belgium through the southern part of Germany, which is just beautiful. We enjoyed a lot of German hospitality. And then we went to further up, back into Denmark, and more again on some islands on the western side of Denmark, and then from there we drove through back to Sweden, back home. So it was a lot of fun, and I saw some amazing things, but of course that affected the reading, which is not a problem for me because I like to experience everything. And then this week, I think, we went for a few days, a little bit, just a couple of hours south of Stockholm, and stayed in this amazing, by the lake, this really beautiful hotel. Really, really cozy and lovely. So for reading has been, but I'm actually very proud of what I have achieved. So let's see what I've done during all this traveling. See what's happened. So I'm, as you know, busy with this Candy's reading challenge for 2025, and it's on the Storygraph. Candy from the Literary Rabbit Hole. I will obviously link her below. And May, we had this prompt called Gate May, and it was read a book with a gate or portal or transition. So the book I chose was from Maeve Binchy, and it was called Light a Penny Candle. You can see. Woohoo! It was a big one. I wasn't sure I'd finish it. I can't believe I finished this book. It had 824 pages. Now, firstly, in my previous video, I talked about my connection with Maeve Binchy, that we shared the same literary agent in London, and that I had this psychic that told me I have a connection with Maeve Binchy years before I got the same agent as her. And so she's been following me around. And then when Amazon suggested this Maeve Binchy book, I thought, well, maybe now it's time to read her because I never read her. And so I chose her first novel because I thought I like to read authors' first novels, because for me, I feel like when I read the first novel of an author, it's almost like that's where their biggest emotion, their heart just comes out. It's still very raw. It hasn't been worked on, like polished and made. I love that it's a little bit, maybe sometimes a bit quirky, and it's their first novel. It's like this rawness in it, and I love reading that. So I love first novels of authors, and this was her first one from Maeve Binchy. And oh my gosh, Did I like this book? Yes, it was so good. I don't know. I did not think I would like her because I don't know why I didn't think I just assumed she was a romance novelist, and I like romance books, don't get me wrong, but everything about this book, when I just look at it, don't judge a book on its cover. That is what I'm saying here, because everything I read on the cover, for me personally, I didn't think I would like. I thought it was like a little bit maybe romance, a bit soppy. It takes place in Second World War. It's this big epic following two friends over the period of 30 years. And, you know, those kind of books, I sometimes think they can be a bit just not interesting enough or drag on, but this book had me gripped. So yeah. So basically what it is these two girls, Elizabeth White and her friend Aisling O'Connor. So Elizabeth was a young girl when the war broke out, and she was English, and her family sent her to stay with friends during the Blitz. So a lot of you probably know a lot of the kids during the Second World War in London were sent to the countryside to live with people because of the bombs that were falling in London. So she was sent to stay with a friend in Ireland, and the friend they were Irish Catholics, and they had a big family, and one of them was a girl the same age as Elizabeth, and her name was Aisling, and they became friends, really good, close, like sisters. And so we follow their lives for about 30 years. Of course, Elizabeth goes back to London after the war, and they grow up communicating with letters, but there's not many letters. There's not really letters in this novel, but that's how they would communicate in those days. And we follow their lives, and they stay in touch even though they don't see each other much. So yeah, and a lot of things happen, and I just, oh my gosh, it was heart-wrenching, but so beautiful. So I completely was blown away by this book. I did not expect to like it. So yeah, so I finished my Gate May. The reason I chose that for Gate May as well is because it felt a little bit of a coming of age story, even though of course they got older, but there was that kind of vibe. So yeah, so that was what I read for my Candy Literary or my Candy Reading Challenge. And then, as you may know, oh no, this is something else. So Candy also has, I think she has it together with Julie from Bookish Travels. They have this Witchlit. It's called Witchlit. So it's kind of like a witchy literature kind of reading witchy books, right? And so I love witchy books, so I will pick up a witchy book. If there's anything that has that in it, you got me. I will go for it. So I love those books. So I found this one on Kindle. I think I got it last year around October maybe, when it was like Amazon has these first reads on Kindle. You probably know about it too, where you can just choose a book for free or 99 cents or pence, and then you can get that book when it's like coming out. And so this was one of the books on this first reads, and it was called An Age of Winters by Gemma Laviro. I have a black and white Kindle, so you can't see the colors, but yeah, oh my God, this book. I have to say, I was gripped by this book too. It's not as long as Maeve Binch's book, but I'm okay. Let me just tell you what it was about, and then I will go into that. the book takes place in the 1600s in Germany during the witch trials. And it's in this small little town, I think it's Bavaria maybe, I'm not sure, where something bad starts to happen. Little children were found dead and murdered and, all of that. So, and it was super cold. That's why it's called an age of winters. It was that time in Europe when it was this just freezing. It was this long winter that was happening in the climate. And so, of course, people want to blame something or something or someone for all of this stuff that's happening. So the witch trials happened. This book, I was just like, oh my God. So the main narrator is this girl or young woman, and she works for the priest. And she's like a housekeeper / chef. She's a widow. And we, she's a completely unreliable narrator, to use some official terminology for books here. She completely unreliable. But we basically, from her point of view, see what's going on in this little village in Germany. And how the people, this was just like, that got me, right? It just made me shake my head and think, what are we doing? Because when I read that book, taking place in the 1600s, and I look at where we are today in 2020s, right? It doesn't feel like things have changed. It doesn't feel to me like we have evolved or we've gotten more enlightened in our outlook. We still do the same things. It's just that we maybe not physically burn somebody at the stake, but we might as well, because we destroy people's careers, people's, what is the word I'm looking for in English? Their reputations. We destroy all of that by going on these witch hunts when somebody says something that we don't agree with and suddenly they are bad, evil people. They need to be destroyed. I am not saying that when people do or say bad things that they shouldn't be held accountable. But we can honestly today, we are just like those people in the witch hunts when we seriously go for somebody and just destroy everything that they have, right? It was very uncomfortable to read this book and to think about today's society. And the whole time through, I was just gripped by this book. I read it. And then we got to the end. Oh, well. I usually, if I read something I don't like to talk about it because, like you have heard me say before, author's soul and heart goes into their book, and to try and criticize, and it is not my space to do that. It's not my place, because everything they put is in a book. I know, because I've written them. It's, you put your soul in there. But I must say that the ending was a little bit quick, and it just happened very quickly and very unexpectedly. But it was still a really great book, and I will recommend the book for that setting of the scene, the tone, the place, the feeling of the people, how they treated one another when they thought, like everybody was just pointing fingers at everybody, and it was intense. It was horrifyingly bad. But it was an education for me, not so much about the past, because I know about that, but about the present. So that made this book, whoops, I'm doing something wrong here. Oh, goodness. This book, really a worthwhile read for me. An Age of Winters, Gemma Lavero. So there we go. Those were the two books that I read during this really super traveling month. So now let's talk about June. So June is called on the Candy Reading Challenge, Juicy June. Read a big, juicy book. Now I think I did myself a little bit of a disservice here, because I think I did the Juicy June by reading this Maeve Binchy book in May. So I was like, I'm like a little bit concerned, because I'm not going to read another book like that for June. I don't have it in me to do 2 back to back. However, I did put a book down originally in there, so I'm going to keep that book that I chose for myself. So read a book that's a chunker. So I've chosen a non-fiction book, and this book I put up in the beginning of the year, and it's so interesting that how it applies right now during this time. And the book is called The Afrikaners, Biography of a People by Herman Guillaume. So this is the book, and isn't it just pretty damn synchronicities, because with what's happening and what we've seen, if anybody watches the news, you will see that you heard so much about the Afrikaners, who's my people. I'm an Afrikaner, and how they are now in the news with refugees and whatnot and all that stuff. And I have no opinions about that. I'm not going to talk about that. But it's just very intriguing that I chose this book in January to read in June, and now all this stuff is happening in the news, right? So I've had this book for years, and you could see how I have made so many little notes in there. I don't know if you can see the notes there that I've made, and highlights and things. And it's just a book about the Afrikaner. Now, and where they come from, the history, when were we first called Afrikaners, all the things we've done, how's that movie? The good, the bad, the ugly, right? So it's a full biography of the Afrikaner people. And so I really love history, so I figured it's time for me to read this book. So I'm going to go and see how far I can get through it for this Juicy June. And yeah, it's going to be, it's already was the bits that I've read. It's tough to read, right? Because it's not always we don't always have the best, we've not always done the right thing as people. So yeah, so I'm really curious to read that book, and then, or continue reading that book. And then also June, I'm going to start my literary reading plan, the one that I talked about in a previous video, which I will also link, and where I'm taking different periods of literature and different themes, and I read one book from each. So the first period is a romantic, and I love the romantic poets. So I chose William Blake. And so the way I plan on doing this is I have a couple of his books, and then I also have some overall literature, like an anthology of literature that has a lot of the romantics in it, and also Blake, of course. And then I will combine that with these 2 books from Blake that I have. And I also have some documentaries that I'm watching about Blake, because he's always been super fascinating to me. And some, just some papers that's written and all of that. And then I want to get like a little overview for myself about William Blake. Maybe pick up things I don't know already. I even went to see his grave in London. I have a photo. I will put all of that up when I talk about, after this month, when I talk about him. So the first book that I have is called, of course, Songs of Innocence and of Experience. That's his, that's his book, right? This is probably one of his most famous books. Now, he was not only a writer, of course, he was also an artist. So what I love about him is that he combined the imagery with the words. And so in this little pretty little book is that the actual pages of the prints that he made. And then on the one side is the text in English, in modern English. I wouldn't say proper English. And it has this really gold leaf around it and a little mark so you can see where you are. So, and look at this end papers. It's just a lovely little book. And even the front has got this fabricy feel with almost like embossed on it. So so I'm looking forward to reading this book. And like I say, he was an interesting guy. I mean, he saw visions and he wrote about them and he dreamed of things. And for him, that was normal, which is so wonderful that he didn't hide away from those. And the second book I bought in my favorite bookshop in London called Treadwell's. And it's called William Blake's Mystic Map of London. He was a Londoner through and through. He only went away for a little bit once. I think it was in Sussex that he lived for a little while. And this book is just a little, almost like a pamphlet that just has a lot of his art in it, but also talks about where he lived and the places he might have visited and all those kind of things. So yeah, it's like a map of where he was in London. So very special little book I bought. So that will be my literary reading part for June. And then I'm keeping it open. There's a few options that I might go for, but I always like to have a little bit of space for reading, impulse reading. I will probably choose something on my Kindle. What I have no idea yet, because I like to lie in bed in the dark, have the light really low on the Kindle and just read until I fall asleep. And that's when I choose a Kindle book, because I don't need the lights on and then I just fall asleep. So that will definitely be one story or one book. And then maybe, it depends, but I might do this, The Magician's Elephant that I talked about last time, Kate DiCamillo. Just looked like such a nice little book. And, it looks, but often this can be deceiving. But it looks like maybe an easy read, because I have quite heavy reads here coming up this month. So we need a little bit of fun. And I also read May was pretty heavy books as well. So maybe this little magician with the elephant, I mean, it's the one with the fortune teller's tent that appears in the town. So I think that would be nice. So yeah, I think that's it. That's it from me. Another long discussion. Tell me, how is it going with you with the reading? Is there any books you are interested in? If there's some books that you have that I have here, let me know. We could do some sort of buddy read. It's always fun to do, right? And yes, I wish for you a wonderful reading month. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you soon. Bye.